It makes more sense to have exogenous ketones with carbs. It is the most paradoxical sounding thing, and it makes you sound like a crazy person, but having ketones while you are in ketosis actually is not as good. Having it with carbs works so much better. I'll explain the research. Hey, after this video, check out Thrive Market down below in the description. You've probably seen me talk about them before. They're an online membership-based grocery store. Deliver your groceries right to your doorstep, mainly pantry essentials. And what I like about them is I follow a ketogenic diet most of the time, and I have been keto for 10 years. And I can sort by keto on their website. So that way it takes the guesswork out. I don't have to worry about reading the labels. I can just be like, oh, cool, I know that's in the keto category. That looks delicious. Let me look at the ingredients really quick, and boom, and it's at my doorstep in 1 to 3 days, along with a box of other goodies. So then I stuff my pantry with that. Anyway, it's awesome. And they are very cost effective, and a lot of times ends up being less money than going to the grocery store, especially when you factor in your time. So I do recommend you check them out. Wide variety of different things. That's what I like about having them on my channel, is I'm not seeming contrived talking about one thing. It's just, if you were doing keto, you're gonna get a benefit out of it. So that link is down below, and you can save 25% off of a membership and get a free gift when you do use that link. So thanks Thrive Market, and thanks to you. Let's roll. So there was an interesting study that was just released not that long ago that showed that taking a ketone monoester improved postprandial glucose tolerance. So basically, it improved the ability to deal with carbohydrates when the ketone was taken. Now, this was a ketone monoester, which isn't exactly available in the consumer world, but it still paints a pretty accurate picture of exogenous ketones. So what I've learned and what I've experienced in 10 years of doing keto, and probably the last 5 years of exogenous ketones being on the market, is that exogenous ketones work better in tandem with carbohydrates because they help the cells utilize fats more efficiently, or they at least help the cells use ketones more efficiently, and thereby can improve your insulin sensitivity, just like we saw in this study. Okay, so I'm not tied up with any exogenous ketone company, so I'm not making a claim here. This is what I've seen. In fact, I will flat out tell you that exogenous ketones taken in a ketogenic state, a nutritional ketogenic state, like if you're doing a keto diet, are not nearly as beneficial, okay? Because ketones can stand in the way of lipolysis if you were on a ketogenic diet, and I've talked about this in numerous videos. So if you're following keto, you already have ketones present. If you add additional ketones to it, you're just adding exogenous fuel in front of what your body's naturally burning, okay? And it's also going to send a signal to your body to stop releasing more fat, because it's gonna say, oh, we have sufficient ketones. Even though they're artificial or exogenous ketones, it's still gonna send the signal to not release more fat to turn into ketones, because why would it release more than it needs? You're not just gonna release fat for releasing its sake. You're gonna release what you need. So if your body registers, oh, I've got what I need, it's going to turn off lipolysis. And we've seen that in studies, right? But with carbohydrates, you're not necessarily going to use the ketones instead of the carbohydrates, but you can improve the sensitivity of the cell, okay? And also you can slow down some of the absorption of the carbohydrates, thereby not causing as big of a spike. So what I usually recommend is, if you're doing like an intermittent fasting protocol or anything like that, exogenous ketones work good in tandem with those carbohydrates. Now, additionally, like if you're doing exercise, here's what happens. Exogenous ketones will actually preserve glycogen. So we've seen this in endurance athletes. If you're going out for a run and you have ketones present, you're not going to burn through your glycogen stores as much, okay? So that means that you're preserving muscle glycogen, which is going to give you more fuel later on. Well, this also factors into the same reason why it works well when you consume exogenous ketones with carbs. Because it preserves your muscle glycogen, it can actually encourage the carbohydrates that you do take in to go into glycogen store. Because look at it like this. The body is probably going to preferentially use the ketones. They're an efficient fuel source, and if they're present, the body will want to use them. So what happens to the extra carbs that you use? Well, you're probably gonna store them in a storage form in terms of glycogen. So it can actually improve performance that way too. But full disclaimer, if you were to consume exogenous ketones and too many carbohydrates, it could backfire. Because remember, your cells are using the ketones for fuel. So the carbohydrates that you're consuming are gonna go into the storage form to an extent. If you have 500 grams of carbohydrates, you can only store, let's say 300 in your body. The other 200 are gonna go through de novo lipogenesis, because your body's burning the ketones, storing some of the carbs, and the rest has to get converted into fat. It's not just gonna magically evacuate. Okay, so the point is that you have to be really, really honest with yourself, and you also have to exercise moderation. So I'm saying this because I don't feel like you should be using exogenous ketones a bunch in a state of nutritional ketosis unless you are after satiety or unless you are after cognitive function specifically. If you're after weight loss, they are better used along with carbohydrates. But most of all, if you are someone that is overweight, someone that is obese, someone that is dealing with insulin resistance, there's some good evidence that it could improve. We run into one glaring problem though. Most of what's on the market right now is going to be a ketone salt, which are racemic salt of L-beta hydroxybutyrate and D-beta hydroxybutyrate, which don't really drive up ketone levels too tremendously high. We need to wait for more monoesters and ketone esters and diesters to come out to really look at that research. But I hope this clears some things up. It works well with carbohydrates. They can help you there. Okay, do not take them with more than 60 grams of carbohydrates at a time, or you run the risk of spilling over. And do not take them every day. I would take them a couple days per week around your carbohydrates and see how you feel that way. See if you can get the best of both worlds. I'll see you tomorrow.